As all 10 teams come together to ensure that F1 is a competitive sport until at least 2025, the Ferrari-Vettel divorce is getting ugly, and Hamilton is in La Zona in Barcelona. Let's jump the start.
All right, everybody, welcome in. We're back. Yhancy, how are you doing?
Hi.
Ruben, how are you?
What's going on, guys?
Happy belated birthday, of course.
Thank you.
How old are you? 60 today?
41.
He was old enough to see Fangio win that first. Win his first time. So today we're going to discuss the race and a little bit of the news. So let's kind of just jump right into it because it's a lot to cover. The Spanish Grand Prix won by Lewis Hamilton, second place Max Verstappen, third Valtteri Bottas. What did you guys think of the race itself in general? Yhancy, what did you think?
Boring as all hell.
Can you elaborate?
It's the usual race that Barcelona throws up. It's never any fun. You can't overtake. I thought it was going to be a little bit better because we were going to have some more tire degradation because of the heat. But obviously, Mercedes came prepared. And, as I predicted, the top three, Lewis Hamilton, number 1, Max 2, and Bottas, again, not living up to the task and trying to fight Lewis Hamilton for the championship.
Since you predicted it again, next time we're going to Vegas and you're gonna put down the ticket for us.
Let's. Well, you guys are putting up the money, right?
Okay.
Because I am the Oracle.
Yeah, of course.
And then you give me a percentage.
What's that Matthew McConaughey movie? I forget. What is it? 2 for the money? Something like that. Ruben, what did you think of the race?
I think the race was also boring, but at the same time impressive. Where these guys got to lap pretty much almost the whole field just by being the top 3 and being in their own world.
I don't know how you guys think that's a good thing, but
that's not easy to do.
I know it's not easy to do, but I think that's more in the state of affairs of what F1 is. It's not, anything that the drivers are doing anything differently. They're just driving as fast as they can.
I thought it was a entertaining race. I thought there was a lot of midfield action, but to each his own.
It had its moments.
It had its moments for sure. Mm-hmm. So at the top, right at the start of the race, Bottas, I don't know what his deal is with his starts. Either he jumps them or it's just he doesn't get off on time. So he mistimed it. He had a slow reaction. He qualified second on the grid, and Verstappen passes him right away. Stroll takes him out on the other, or not takes him out, but flies past him on the inside. Right at the start, he's fourth with Perez chomping at basically his butt. Ruben, what did you think of Bottas' start, and why do we continue to see this?
I don't know. I think this guy better get on the simulator, just sit down there and just practice that little aspect of everything. Just go back, rewind. Okay, just start. Just do starts. Just do start. Just do start stimulators, because he has a problem all the time and he cannot explain what's going on. He hasn't said anything solid behind how the hurry will start. What else can he say? Come on, dude. You're not kidding me. You could say something else.
He is basically acting like a driver who's a very good driver but cannot live up to the level of a world championship driver. And it's what he usually does every season, where he starts off well and then he falls off, and then Lewis Hamilton just takes the baton and just runs with it and wins another championship. Bottas is a good number 2 driver, but he's not a world championship driver because he proves time and again that he just can't get the job done. He can only get the job done when Lewis Hamilton's off. And that's what a number 2 driver does. So he's forever his wingman.
Oh my God.
So I want to be clear. I want to make sure I heard you correctly, right? So he can only be good when a six-time world champion who is one of the best drivers of all time is off. I want to make sure that's what we're comparing him to.
And we're naming him number 2.
It's the only thing we can compare him to because they're in the same car. You know, it's unfortunate. I understand that, and you know, he's a good driver, but he's not Lewis Hamilton, and that's who you're being compared to. Because literally, I mean, and not even now, you're top 3 in the entire championship when you should be top 2. Because now Max is outperforming you in a car that's technically slower than them.
Not according to Toto Wolff.
Take Toto Wolff's words with a grain of salt.
Coming into this weekend, he was just laying it on thick. Oh, the Red Bull's fast. They're gonna beat us. They're gonna be tough to beat.
Blah blah blah.
And I believe it.
Exactly.
And I believe it.
I think you were the only one.
He is. Listen to this comp. I think he is the Bill Belichick of motorsports. He's just like, we're just talking about business. It's where we are, and complimenting the opponent.
Nah, man. I think listen.
I have to agree with Wells on that.
No. Toto has a bit more of a personality, man.
That's true.
Because at least Toto Wolff gives you an animated answer. Bill Belichick is be like, yeah, no, or like I start off the podcast. Hi.
Yep.
So Hamilton, he said that he was so in the zone that he said he didn't even realize it was the last lap. We also read and heard comments from Toto Wolff saying that was one of the best drives he's seen from him from lights to flag. He's just, there's no stopping him, right?
No, not at all, man. It was when I heard that it was either he's either really in the zone, a la. I remember watching Senna, which is a documentary on Ayrton Senna, where they were talking about how he was so in the zone in Monaco, and every time he went into Monaco, he was so in the zone that he just wasn't paying attention, and he actually coming out of Portier, the car snapped and he crashed, and he was leading that race by I don't know how far, like he was gonna win that race, but he was so in the zone. But when you look at his driving, he was just like. It was like the car was driving itself. So it's either that he was in that kind of zone or the heat was getting to him. So I don't know what it was because all the drivers looked exhausted after that race. But I mean, I'm going to take his word for it that Hamilton's in the zone, man. The guy is lights out right now. Nobody can beat him.
You know what I get from when Yhancy just tries to explain? Remember that movie about Facebook that the guys are like sewn into the computer? Oh yeah, just leave him alone. He's coding. So pretty much that's what you're saying, yes? He's like, and they can't even
exactly.
blink.
Exactly. They just locked in a dark room drinking Red Bull and just.
Well, I'm just drinking Monster, not Red Bull, Monster. Okay?
So here, I'm going to tell you what that reminded me of. So we saw that last race, Max Verstappen won. Things went down. It was a Red Bull team win, essentially. We saw the documentary of Michael Jordan, how competitive he is, and how when the chips are down, that's where he like just grinds it to where he needs to be. I felt like that was a Michael Jordan style. Like, all right, I'm taking this win and nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah. I mean,
nothing stopped him, even the tires. And he even complained, no, we ain't doing that.
I mean, if you guys watched that documentary, The Last Dance, you see how Michael Jordan worked tirelessly at his craft and he practiced and he got everybody on it. He said after the race, he said, listen, I studied the tires. I wanted to make sure what they were going to do. And in a race where the tire degradation should have been higher, he knew what tires he was going to be on, even when the team told him to go on a set of softs. He said, no, I don't want to go on the softs. Put me on the mediums. And, let's take home this win. And he did that himself. And obviously there was a lot of drivers, and we'll get to that later, calling their own strategy. But Hamilton was one of them. And he studied his craft and he took home that win convincingly.
And remember, he slowed down the engine because, they complain about him being slow. He shut, he put the engine, dialed it down. and he still lapped everybody, my man. Like he was out.
Yeah, he was gone.
Yeah, that was something that
no
Toto
push.
Wolff said, that if he really wanted to push it, that he would have been even further ahead. The driver that split the two Mercedes, Max Verstappen, you guys know I'm a huge fan. I think he is right now driving as well, not as well as Hamilton. Well, I don't know what I could say because they're on two different cars, but I think that he is on an unbelievable pace, and in any other era, he would be the world champion this year. What do you guys think of that? Or Ruben, what do you think of that?
Without Ham there, he'll be world champion. I would say that, yeah. Bottas can beat him. Bottas doesn't have that spark. Bottas have to fight Ham first before he could ever beat somebody else.
Max Verstappen is the only person that can beat Lewis Hamilton right now. It would be great to see them in equal machinery, but I think that Max is right up there with Lewis as far as being in the zone. And he's not more in the zone because he knows that it's an uphill battle just to catch Lewis Hamilton. It's insane how good he is.
Listen, just to catch Mercedes, you're fighting. So now splitting them, you're just winning. Even though obviously everybody wants to take first place, you know? But splitting the Mercedes, that's a win compared to the machinery that Max has.
And he's in a car that's really hard to drive too.
Exactly.
Man.
So here's what I'll say. Max Verstappen, if you guys recall, around lap 15, started complaining about his tires and how Lewis Hamilton was pulling away. Not that he was pulling away, but that he could not keep up on his tires, to the point where his engineers said to him, just chill out, whatever, and he's just going crazy. So I want to point out that during the race, Lewis Hamilton, out of the 66 laps in the whole race, he lost, as far as lap time, to Max Verstappen only 11 times. So throughout the whole race, Max was just losing. Starting from lap 11, lap 10, it started becoming half a second. 4/10, 6/10. It was just incredible until he finally just went ahead and pitted. I think that it was like an illusion to Max. Not that he was losing time on his tires, but that Hamilton was just out of control. You could see, I'm sharing the screen with the guys, but they could see Hamilton's lap times during that time period versus Verstappen. And there's like no competition.
Well, Verstappen knew that Hamilton can go faster. He said it on the radio. The Red Bull engineers actually told him, Max, you're doing good. Keep up. You're getting close. And he's like, nah, he's going slow, man. He's just nursing the tires. It's like we said, like Lewis Hamilton knew what he was doing. He studied those tires. He studied his craft. And he knew going into the race, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. And Max, being, being the driver that is also in the zone, knew that he was nowhere near the pace that Lewis Hamilton had. And he even called it. He said, listen, no, he's driving slow right now. He can go faster. And it was confirmed by Toto Wolff, at the end of the race.
Yeah, but this weekend, when I said about the impressions, this is one of the things that impressed me the most. Not just from Max, catching that, but a lot of these drivers have a lot of knowledge that we in the public don't see as often when it comes to speed, times, and even guys that are not racing anymore, like Nico Rosberg, that he caught when Ham, I think, went wide in a turn, and he knew exactly how much time Ham lost by doing that. So things like that just leave me, I guess you could say,
flabbergasted.
There you go, flabbergasted. That's the perfect word. When the knowledge that these guys possess, that obviously the real world doesn't see on a daily basis or not share, and how much precise things they're up to.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously these guys live and breathe that stuff.
Exactly.
But it's so cool to see. Like, it was cool to see, good to hear Nico Rosberg and his analysis. I always thought he was a great analysis.
Good to have him.
His insight is pretty phenomenal, and you can see how deep he had to go just to beat Lewis Hamilton. One of the few teammates that has actually beat Lewis Hamilton.
What's funny is even Joylen Palmer, who was essentially a joke in F1, has incredible analysis too. So it's like, It's the level of skill and talent and knowledge required to become a Formula One driver is probably beyond our grasp, to be 100% honest.
But there's a difference between knowing and a difference between executing. And that's what makes you great.
So we were talking earlier about how these three guys lapped the competition. I want to put out there that it's not their equipment. It's just that they are that much. I got to be very careful when I say this. That they are the three currently best drivers on the grid.
Ooh.
Damn.
So Hamilton and Verstappen, yeah, no problem. Easy, we could say that.
Yes.
Do we say that Bottas is better than Ricardo?
No.
Nope.
This year, he's not?
No.
Ooh.
Do you say he's better than Sergio Perez?
They're right there. They're neck to neck.
Yeah. I mean, he's in a class where it's like you have Class A and then you have Class B. But this year, he's probably top of Class B. But I think there's better drivers out there than Bottas. As you know, obviously, he's doing a pretty good job considering if you look at, let's say, what Albon is doing compared to Max, and what Stroll's actually doing pretty well compared to Sergio, but I don't think Sergio has performed to the level that he's capable of performing. But yeah, I mean, Bottas is driving pretty well. Let's not take anything away from him.
And we also
but he's not at the level of Max Verstappen, or even,
of course,
not even closer, or Lewis Hamilton. It's not even close, man.
What were you going to say, Ruben?
No, we have to remember also that Stroll beat Paris this week, and it was because of that penalty. So,
very true.
Without that penalty, Stroll would not have been ahead of him.
Well, I mean, we could look at qualifying. Perez was a 10th ahead of Stroll in the same equipment, and that's coming to race from being home for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Remember that also Hulkenberg qualified him from being on his couch eating tres leche cake too. So one thing that we gotta give Stroll credit for was an amazing start. Yeah, we've mentioned this before. He's really good off the blocks. It's just the rest of it that,
Yeah, if his race, continuation, if he goes of how he starts throughout the whole race, he'll probably be there, in the top three. Who knows? Because he starts like a champion. But during the race, he just loses momentum, I guess.
He looks like a young driver. He looks like a 21-year-old driver.
Like a pay driver.
So like in the game where you could set it to a 5-lap race, he'd be killing it.
Exactly. Probably. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of killing it, Ruben, we were talking before we started recording, but the Hamilton records, he passed the record this week.
Yes.
What do you got for me?
This week was 150th podium that he did this week, so passing Schumacher already there, and he's 4 wins away from matching, or 3 wins away from matching him. For matching
Schumacher.
Yep.
So this guy is, granted, there's more races, more points, etc., but he is on pace to, on paper, be the best Formula One driver of all time. And this year, he's going to be looking.
Why on paper? Why you say paper?
Because there's always going to be the argument of he's on the best team, like the car dominates the field.
Like so was Schumacher. They were saying about Schumacher when he was breaking records and saying that Senna was better, was faster, or even that list that F1 brought up today. I mean, it brought up, was it 2 days ago? Who's the fastest driver? They put.
Do you disagree? Yes.
I don't know, man. I have to look into it. I don't. But it's tough, man. It's just tough because
I think
the machinery is different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think all the GOAT status or all the best of all time status, stuff like that, have to be judged on the time of that person. So we could easily say Ham is the best of the GOAT right now, where we are right now. Schumacher, where in the way F1 was back when he was on top, he was the best.
But you don't think that he can give Schumacher competition? Both of them in their prime?
But they're different machinery.
No,
we don't know if Lewis
I'll
Hamilton,
tell you what.
you put him in the way those machines were back then, if he's going to perform the same. I mean, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, there's always a bit of an overlap. For example, you compare Schumacher, and I mean, obviously, we didn't get to see much of that, but we did see some of it. Schumacher versus Senna. Unfortunately, Senna passed away in 1994 tragically in Imola.
We saw some Schumacher versus Hamilton, but in very
we saw, but it was very different machinery. He was at the end of his career. Yeah, it was at the end of his career, like a second go around where he got beaten like a drum by
Nico. Did he get paid?
By Nico Rosberg.
Did he get paid?
Of course he got paid.
So that's why he came back. He came back from the bag.
Look, it's the same argument as Michael Jordan versus Kobe versus LeBron James. It's
exactly
the same.
I mean, we can go on, but Lewis Hamilton definitely one of the greatest drivers of all time, arguably the GOAT.
What I'll put out, I'm sorry,
and he's demolishing these records. I mean, it's insane. We were talking about how he has 92 poles compared to Schumi's 68. And that's just insane.
What I'll put out there is he's beaten Nico Rosberg, his teammate, handily. He's beaten Fernando Alonso, his teammate.
Yes.
He tied him.
The only reason he beat him that season was because he got the most second place.
Yeah, but he also got like these crazy unlucky DNFs at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying that it was
as a rookie.
It was right there, but it was as a rookie. So yeah, I got you there.
So let's say, for example, he did not, beat Alonso by a landslide, but he really got into Alonso's head.
Do you know that that Lewis Hamilton has lost, I believe, 3 times to a teammate, and they've all been world champions.
In the championship?
Yes, in the Well, no, I'm just talking about like teammate battles within the season. So obviously he lost. Well, he
lost to Rosberg in 16.
He lost to Rosberg in 16. He lost to Jenson Button one season.
So that's the other one I was going to say.
Yes.
He's beaten Jenson Button.
Well, he's beaten Jenson Button, but Jenson Button has beaten him also.
Yes.
And he was tied with Alonso. So if you're getting there to beat Lewis Hamilton, this is how good he is.
You have to be a world champion. You got to
be world champion material,
exactly.
Man. You're not beating him, So about 3 both times, if you want to be Lewis Hamilton, you gotta drive like a world champion.
So, speaking of world champions, Yhancy, I will let you take the stage here. I have titled this section "Ferrari versus Vettel."
That is accurate. That is very, very accurate.
So
that is very accurate.
Take it away, my friend.
Hold on, Wells. By the way, these graphics that you're showing us, this is awesome. Thank you for doing this. The engineers.
I'm giving up my secrets here, but yes, you take it away.
Yeah, listen. I said it last week. That as much as Vettel will say in the media that him and Ferrari are not at odds, it clearly spilled over last race, and it clearly spilled over this race. He doesn't feel like they're on his side, and you can tell it to the team radio. Here's the thing. The one thing I don't think it's all Ferrari's fault. I think at some point you have to perform. And we don't know exactly what are the inner workings of how all of this is going down, but it doesn't seem like Vettel is driving inspired, and he seems to be blaming everybody around him. And then by you doing that, it seems like Ferrari's over it, and they just are not putting him on good strategies during the race. They just don't care. I just don't get why. He obviously didn't qualify in the top 10, so he has a choice of tire at the beginning.
Yes.
Right, so he starts on the mediums. So we all thought the logical choice would be, obviously, if you want to finish up higher, which Ferrari has done with Leclerc, you got to take an alternate strategy, a la Haas in the first few races, right? Or I think it was in Hungary. So we thought, all right, he's on the medium tires, so that means that he can go a little bit longer. And put him on an alternate strategy so he can go a little bit longer, and then put him on a faster tire to the end, and maybe he can overtake and get a higher position. Instead, they put him around the same time as they put him, I think, the same lap as Leclerc, lap 29. They put Leclerc on new mediums, and they put Vettel on used softs, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you going to put him on a tire that cannot go the entire race? Actually, he did. He actually pulled it off.
At the time, they were not planning a one-stopper, just to be clear on that.
Yeah, yes. It was one of those things where they wanted to do a two-stopper. And he actually made it work somehow, but he made it work because he literally had to negotiate with the pit wall, as in like, okay, do I push? Do I not push? I think the radio message was, he said, all right, how's, no, he was like, what's my pace? He said, what's my pace? They were like, all right, it's okay. And then they come back to him a few laps later and said, you think we can do a one stop? He said, dude, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said, here it is. For F's sake, I asked you this before. And I get his frustration because he pushed for 10 laps. So if he's pushing, that means that the tires are gonna go faster. So he's not saving the tires till the end. And then he asked his engineers to do some calculations there. Wells will probably understand this better. and then he said, all right, they got the calculations back to him. He said, all right, yeah, I think I can do it. But he basically did what Lewis Hamilton did. He made up his own strategy and he went with it. The engineers literally had nothing to do with this. And, at that point, you can see that the engineers are not earning their money on either Mercedes or Ferrari.
So here's going to be my question. I know it's leading. Who's at fault, Ferrari or Vettel?
It's Ferrari.
And it looks up from the outside in, it looks like it's Ferrari. But listen, when a relationship goes bad, I always say it's on both sides. So you can see that Vettel is just not into it, man. And he's just trying to finish off the season. So you don't know who's he. It seems like him and Bonato are not on the same page because they're going back and forth in the media. And when you do that, it's just like you just start burning bridges. So, at some point, you got to be professionals about it. I can't tell you who is who, but I'm not going to put all the blame on Ferrari.
On this race, yes, it's Ferrari's fault. He did ask earlier in the race, like pretty much what's the strategy? What are we doing? Yeah. Obviously didn't. So then they let him out to dry. They're like, oh, can you go to the end with this? Like, come on, dude, I just freaking asked you this a couple of laps ago.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Are we sleeping or something? I think the communication is off there. And they just have, they're in a bad relationship right now.
Something's off, man. Something's off. And they'll there's a lot of talk of Vettel not even finishing the season. I think he will, just because, at the end of the day, Vettel is a stand-up guy. He's a very professional person. And he'll drive that car until the end of the season. But yeah, it doesn't look good, man. And it's spilling out on team radio. The only reason it's not spilling out into the media is because Vettel's holding his tongue. But
so I think
it's pretty ugly right now.
I think it's where you said that it when a relationship goes bad, it just goes bad. And I don't think that I kind of did a little bit of an analysis, and I don't think that it's any one side. I think it's just these guys not communicating. So I'm gonna call split one the time from lap 1 to lap 12, right? And split 2 is 12 to 17. 12 to 17 is notable. Here's why. Kvyat was all over the back of Vettel, forcing him to go much faster and to use up more tires. And then from there, I'll go from, I guess, 18 to when they pitted to 28. So in comparing the times for Vettel and Leclerc, we see that Leclerc's times are faster at the start, and then they draw even during that time where Kvyat and Vettel are battling. And then what we see is that all of a sudden Vettel starts going much slower, which is it's kind of in line with where his tires are supposed to be, a little slower, but they're supposed to last longer. If you compare, for example, Ricciardo and Ocon, they also started on fresh mediums because they did not qualify in the top 10. So Ocon and Ricciardo, their start to their race was slower than where Vettel was. Obviously, the first couple of laps is whatever. In that middle section where Vettel was battling Kvyat, Ricciardo was kind of just chilling, doing his thing. Same as Ocon, but where you start to see Ocon go a little faster is towards the end of that where he's battling with Kimi, but he manages to maintain his tires and he slips back into a slower time, but he extends the tires. I think that part of the problem there was the engineers at Ferrari should have said, yo, you have life in these tires. You need to figure it out. You need to make these things last, because it doesn't look like his times are much different in stint one from Ricciardo and from Ocon. He is maybe a half second slower per lap than Ricciardo, but he's still going faster than Ocon, and they both managed to take their tires out to lap 34. From there, what you see is in lap 45, you start to see the talk of the rain in the race. And I think that, again, it's just miscommunication. They didn't tell him, or they may have talked and said, hey, there's rain coming. Actually, I think they did. There's rain coming. So then Vettel.
They said by lap 50.
So you could see, and I'm pointing it out to these guys on the screen. His lap times go from 124 115 to 122.707. So he's going faster and faster. Lap 48, that's where he calls in and he says, hey, what's my pace? And then all of a sudden he starts to slow down when they say to him, we'll get back to you, or they don't get back to him. And then I think that the problem with Ferrari was they didn't think about it until Mercedes pitted. And then they were like, oh, you know what? Maybe the rain will hold off. Let's tell him to stay out there on those old tires. And then you can see that he starts going much slower, much more of a conservative race. But at that point, the damage is done, where he could have had a much better race.
He pushed too hard at the beginning of that.
They forced him to do that. Yeah, they forced him to do that.
They didn't force him. They did not talk. He said,
yeah, exactly.
They said the rain is potentially coming. So if it's me, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go onto Inters, so I'm gonna kill these tires.
They gave each other the silent
exactly.
treatment.
Maybe at the pre-race meeting that the team had, they told him, hey, we will do 3 stops or 2 stops.
Who sleeps on the couch?
Vettel, of course, come on. Vettel's on his way out. He's his stuff is gonna be packed up and left outside the door.
I think Ferrari was just too busy watching the local news, the weather.
They have their
instead
radar.
of watching the radar. Yeah, they were too busy watching the local weather.
Come on, we all
rain, whatever. But
we all were hoping that it was gonna rain.
Well, that was what was going to wake up the race. If it rained,
was going to wake up.
We were going to wake up. Yeah.
No, but like I said, it's just a miscommunication thing. The first stint, they should have told him, yo, you're staying out on these tires. I don't care. Because he was the one that said, I don't feel good on these tires. I want to come in. And they pitted him on lap 29. And then from then on, there was just terrible communication. They didn't really do what they needed to do.
He needed to do 6 more laps like Ricciardo did.
Ferrari they basically created a new department for new performance or something like that. What they need to do is literally blow up that strategy department and start a new one because I don't know, man. But like I said, I mean, the situation's gotten so ugly with Vettel, but it goes both ways. But Ferrari doesn't have that.
So, anything else to say on Vettel? They need to figure something out because he is still a talented driver, and you could tell he is checked into the race. He's there. He's making the calls that he needs to make.
I just listen. There's no reason for Ferrari to not give Vettel everything that he needs to score points because they need both cars to score points. It means money. It's just, as usual, Ferrari is very inconsistent with their strategy calls. One race is good, one race is not. Or in some cases, it's good for one driver and it's bad for the other. They need to get their ish together.
But we could say that they probably already settled that we suck this year, so whatever. And he's gone.
Yeah, but you still can get money.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the team and the other driver, we talked about Leclerc, how he was doing pretty well on those used softs. Then he hits the curb, spins out, power goes off on the car. Yhancy, what happened to your boy?
He hit a curb and the electricity came on, or he just turned off. Basically, I guess the jolt of hitting the curb, something went wrong something went wrong with the electrical system. I don't know if a wire unplugged or something. The car turned off, the wheel locked, and he spun.
Not his fault, right?
Doesn't seem like it. Maybe because he hit the curb.
You fell right into my trap because last week you were saying that it was Vettel's fault for hitting a curb and spinning, and you fell right into my trap.
No, I didn't fall right into the trap. It's the truth. That's what happened.
So
he hit the curb.
So it's Leclerc's fault, not Leclerc's fault when he hits the curb, but it is when Vettel hits the curb.
Exactly.
No, it is his fault. But he didn't destroy the car. The car just turned off. Excuse my language.
Again.
If the car doesn't turn off, he'd probably still be driving.
But he spun.
With a seatbelt on.
He spun. Yeah, so that's the other thing. Is he took his seatbelt off and did 2 laps with no penalty yet. Ruben, what do you think of this? What do you think?
He hasn't even gotten a penalty?
No.
Or nothing, right?
No, probably not.
That's insane.
Dude, all I think about is that Gordon Ramsay meme where it's like, okay, Charles Leclerc makes a mistake. Oh dear, gorgeous. And then Vettel makes a mistake. Oh, you donkey. What are you doing?
That's Yhancy. That's Yhancy. That's Yhancy.
Yeah.
How he defended his boy today.
I gladly admit.
His prodigy. It was so unfortunate this happened to him that the car turned off. I mean, this conversation would have gone differently with Yhancy, but I think he was about just to be when he saw the car was off, trying to get it on. He took the seatbelt because he thought his race day was done. I don't know where the car turns on. He got struck by lightning, and it turned on. Or he hit the dash. When you're driving like an old car and you hit your dash a couple of times to see if the check engine light goes off or something like that, or something turns on. That's what he did. He hit the car a couple of times and it turned on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of weird what happened there because it's basically the car turned off. I think it was just like the jolt of him hitting the curb, and then the car turning off, and then the rear axle locks up, and then that's why he spins. So that's technically not his fault.
So by the way, Vettel's a better spinner. You heard? So Vettel is a better spinner.
He does
not turn off.
No, Vettel does it. Vettel's spins look prettier.
It's a pirouette.
There you go.
It's a pirouette.
Yes. It's a.
So we could say Leclerc did a better, like Ricardo said last time.
No. Oh yeah. There you go. That's it. Leclerc did a Vettel.
I don't know. I mean, I thought that this would be a good race for them to get good points. Spa coming up, it's going to be ugly for them unless they could figure something out with that. Spa and then Monza, right? Unless they could figure something out with that engine.
Well, Leclerc got 4th in Silverstone, the first race. So you never know.
So
we'll see what happens.
From that race, though, from the Spanish Grand Prix, Racing Point, actually, this was their best ever finish. We talked a lot. We talk a lot about these guys all the time because they're just constantly in the news. But we said that we thought that they would do better now that Perez is back to tune that car better than last week, which they were not last week, but 2 weeks ago, in which they were pretty miserable. It's the same question for every team. Where the heck are they pace wise? Is 4th and 5th where they belong?
That's exactly where they belong.
They do.
That's exactly where they belong. They seem to be understanding the car better. Obviously, it's their first year with this iteration of a low rake, and just this kind of car. So they're understanding the car better. They know where it's good, where it's not. Now that Perez is back, he can give them, I think, better insight into what's working, what's not working. But that's where they're at. They're 4th and 5th. They're not a podium contender. As long as Max is driving there, they're not going to be on the podium unless something goes wrong with that Red Bull. But Max seems to be dialed in on that Red Bull. Albon is not, so they're going to be there all the time. They're thereabouts. And again, that car is really hard to drive. The Red Bull is really hard to drive. So, but Max is doing a masterful job, a testament to how good of a driver he is, to handle that car and consistently get into second place and even getting a race win. But that's where Racing Point is. They're head of the pack in the midfield by far. I don't see them going any higher. Maybe when you get to higher speed tracks, Monza, Spa, maybe they might challenge for a podium, but that's yet to be seen. Hopefully they do. We need another team on the podium.
I think that's what Racing Point is waiting for one of these top 3 guys, for something to happen to them. Because every time something happens in that perspective and Racing Point is on it, they manage to get into the podium, even before they had the Mercedes engine at this level, So now that they're having this car, they're closer. So any mistakes made by anybody, this guy will be all over it, especially Paris. Stroll sucks.
Actually, he looked really good at the start. He looked really good, and he held his own throughout the race. Racing Point is currently 3rd place in the constructors, ahead of McLaren by 1 point and Ferrari by 2 points. And this is after losing 15 points due to the whole brake duct thing. So
that's after the 15
correct.
Points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So,
well, I mean, they're gonna be the 3rd, 4th best team. Well, what were they now?
They're
Third.
3rd.
They're 3rd. Yeah, so that's where they're gonna be at. That's where we expected.
What I'm expecting is for Paris to do the power slide that he did a couple of years back on Spa, but do it with this car to see if he lands on the wall or he's able to recover on that. Remember that video of Paris coming down and he just drifts the whole, pretty much the whole bottom turn all the way out, and he just picks up the car again. So imagine doing it in this car. That would be super dope.
That's insane.
Yes, sir.
So there's them, and then there is the other driver amongst the top teams is Alex Albon, who I predicted was going to have a good race. I feel like he, put egg on my face here. He qualified 6th. He finished 8th, but he was doing exactly what I said. He was passing guys on those long sweeping turns. He was very aggressive. He
didn't put egg on your face. He bathed you in egg.
Isn't that healthy for the skin?
You know how when you make a breaded chicken that you do you put it in flour, then you do an egg bath. That's you. You're
wow.
Thank you, Albon. So I don't think he put me on that egg bath. It was more so the Red Bull team who pitted him first out of anybody onto hards, right into traffic, and it kind of killed his race from there.
They used him as a guinea pig.
Yes, they keep doing that. I hope he doesn't end like Pierre.
I don't think so. But even Martin Brundle said on the broadcast that they weren't pitting Max because they wanted to see how Albon was doing on the hard tires.
They were looking for an alternative strategy.
Yeah, and you can't really tell if the strategy will work if you put your driver directly into traffic.
They put him in the first phase of a vaccine trial.
Wow, yes.
Wow. Very topical.
Wow.
So, Alexander Albon went from 6th to 16th after that pit. Yeah, so he was just done. It was toast after that. He fought his way to 7th, and then from there he pitted again, came out in 11th, and then made his way to 8th where he finished. is just...
No, considering the strategy, it's not bad. He needs to get qualifying together. I think that's his biggest issue. If he qualifies higher, he doesn't have to fall prey to bad strategy calls or anything else, or it doesn't have to fight through traffic or just fight through
Dude,
the
he
field.
qualified 6th, exactly where beyond the 4 Mercedes and Max.
He qualified 6th, but you're talking about he should be qualifying ahead of those racing points.
Okay.
That again, you got to be closer to Max Verstappen. We all want to see him do well, but at some point you got to do better. You're on the top team.
I don't know what's up with him. So beyond that, there's really not much to talk about. Pierre Gasly remains a beast, very consistent. Kvyat actually was very impressive on the back of Vettel for laps 12 through 17. He was giving him heck, but at the end of the day, the bottom 6, the 2 Williams, the 2 Haas, and the 2 Alfa Romeo are just going to be there. So it becomes a battle for 4 through 14. If you take out,
if you watch those 3 teams just battling, it'll probably be an interesting race.
Please. Guys, anything else coming out of the race? Ruben, was there anything else that kind of jumped out at you?
No. In the backfield, there was nothing going on.
In the back.
Nothing. Yeah, there was nothing going on back there. There's nothing happening.
Yes.
What do you want to find it classify exciting? Russell passing Latifi. Is that exciting?
Oh, I actually got excited about that. I was like, oh, Russell, yeah, he's passing his
Actually,
teammate.
let me jump in here before you, Yhancy. One thing that I, again, was excited about was Leclerc versus Lando. These guys were separated by like millimeters. It was crazy how close they came at such high... I mean, it's Formula One racing, but at such high speeds. I am very excited for Lando, Max, Charles Leclerc, Ocon, George Russell, just going at it for years to come.
It seems to be box office when Leclerc and Lando meet on the track, because it's always good, clean, hard racing. It doesn't matter what position it's for. It's just them. It's one of them going for an overtake, the other one defending. And it's almost like when you watch an F2 race where you go with these unorthodox. It's not like a DRS overtake. It's just one of these like, all right, I'm going to get you here. I'm going to get you there. Or I'm going to defend you here. It's a lot of fun to watch. And again, they put on a great show. Thank you, Lando. Thank you, Triple L. And thank you, Charlie.
Dude, he went home and started streaming right after the race. This guy is a machine.
No. Obviously, the back and forth thing that they have going on, it seems to be happening now like every race. And it's also super clean. They don't make any contact. It's, hey, you got me. Okay, let me try to get you back. Okay, let me defend a little bit. And it's actually, like Yhancy said, super entertaining. And what I like the most about it is that it's super clean. These guys are not, not taking each other out.
There's no bad blood. They're just doing it. They're just doing an awesome job racing. The other thing coming out of the race that I just noticed as a trend is the drivers, putting in their 2 cents on strategy and as far as talent is concerned. You had Max obviously going back and forth with his pit wall, which was quite entertaining just hearing the radio. And, obviously Lewis Hamilton saying, no, I'm going to go on the mediums instead of the softs, which was the right call. And then you have obviously Vettel, doing the numbers in his head while doing 180 miles an hour or telling him, well, do these numbers. And then like,
dude, that was absurd.
That was insane. Like Vettel is one of the best at, just coming up with strategy calls while driving a car. He's so smart. I don't know if it's just because of the...
Whoa.
I've always liked
2020 is so weird where I'm defending Vettel. Like, we have to come.
But, I don't know if it's just the engineers are off just because of the whole situation. But it seems like the drivers are fighting fighting back the engineers and their thoughts as far as what tires they should go on. Because even when Leclerc, when he finished fourth in the British Grand Prix, he was begging the engineers to say, no, let's do a one-stop. And ultimately, that was the right call. But now it's like spilling over on the radio. We can hear that. It's interesting to see how this transpires going along. It seems like the drivers want to take things more into their hands to finish higher.
Sure. And that shows that, what was, I think Niki Lauda said that you could put a monkey now in these cars so they could race or something like that. What was that he said back then? It shows that the drivers actually do have, skills to drive. Even though the machinery has become, as the years progress, more and more sophisticated, but now they're fighting these guys behind a computer saying, no, that's not working. Let's try this. This is what I'm feeling. Pretty much the feeling aspect of the driver is still there.
Regardless it shows you the level of talent.
Yes. No, regardless of what a machine, what a computer is telling you to go, should go, but also the feeling of the driver, it still counts as something.
That's why I really wish that Nico Rosberg would write a book on what he had to do to beat Lewis Hamilton. I'd be the first in line.
Well, that's the only way Bottas will beat him if he wins that book.
All right, so that about wraps it up for the Spanish Grand Prix for us. A little bit of news after the race. I guess the major news was all the teams have signed the Concord Agreement. Essentially what that is the new deal as to what's going to happen from the end of what is now the 2021 season due to COVID out through 2025. For me, that also means that all the teams are committing to being there in 2022, which is a great thing for the sport. Yhancy is
Haas is staying.
Yeah, Haas is staying. Yhancy, is there anything else you want to add into this thing?
No, I'm just glad, after it was interesting to see the lead up because all the team bosses were hitting back at each other and calling each other names.
The bickering process.
Yeah, the bickering process. It was funny. It was funny seeing Zach Brown and Omar Safar go at each other in the press conference. But I'm glad that they finally signed it. I like the direction that it's going, where it's more of an equal opportunity as far as an equal payout for teams, where they have they can get an equal amount of money comparative to where they finish, so they can develop the car, and we can get closer racing, more exciting racing, instead of just seeing a 2-horse race at the front. And we can see more teams, moving their way up, and we can get a sort of like a situation where we have an underdog team that can actually make a big improvement, a la Racing Point, and move themselves up the grid. But we can see that more often instead of just having to copy the championship car from last season. So I like the direction it's going. I'm glad that all teams signed it. So we're going to have all 10 teams, and hopefully we can get more teams on the grid. And that'll just make for better racing.
Yeah, one of the, like Yhancy said, it'll create a little more parity. They're introducing a budget cap, essentially, as part of this agreement. So that will be a fresh take, and it'll keep, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Red Bull, they pour the most money into the program. So hopefully we'll see more competition from the bottom. Any thoughts, Ruben, before we move on?
No. I mean, if what you said, to bunch up the pack is going to be eventually more competitive racing, and that's what we want,
Yeah. So moving on from there, the Turkish Grand Prix is, I don't want to say rumored, but it's pretty much set to, it's not official yet, but it's pretty much set to join the 2020 calendar. It's at Istanbul Park. It's a track that has been around previously in F1 history. It has it's a very fast sweeping track, so the drivers love it. It's an entertaining track to watch races on. I know, Yhancy, we were talking about it before the race, but before we get to that, I want to say that it looks a little bit like a dinosaur looking at it. You could see
it does. This one does. I agree with you on that one.
You knew I had to sneak it in there.
Yes, it does.
Yo, you know
it
what?
looks like Barney.
Actually, I was going to say something
What were you
else.
gonna say?
It looks like E.T.
No, not at all, man.
Oh no!
Yeah,
no,
the top of E.T.'s head is on the top. You know, the little arms.
It looks like a
But
toy
in
dinosaur.
the tradition
Yeah.
of my racetrack descriptions, it looks like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. I give you that
You nailed it, bro.
Finally.
You nailed it. You nailed it. It's better than the cat at Barcelona.
Yeah, so you were talking previously that it looks like before we started recording, that it looks like parts of another track. What were you saying to us then?
Well, the person who
Herman Tilke?
Herman Tilke, which is the F1 I guess what track planner.
Track
I don't
guru.
know. I don't know what it's. Yeah, he basically plans these tracks out. So the turn that all the drivers and all F1 fans love, and I've never seen a race. I'm a newer F1 fan. Is turn 8, which is very similar to turns, I think it's 15, 16, and 17 at Circuit of the Americas, and turns 2, 3, and 4 at Sochi. So basically what Herman Tilke does, since everybody loved this turn, is that he transplanted these elements of this turn into other tracks that were built afterwards. But they've never been able to duplicate how great it is in Turkey, because it's almost like a triple apex turn that is the cars go flat out in. But leading up to it is just like a big sweeping right turn, and then just coming out of that turn 7 going into turn 8, they just hit the pedal and they just go into it flat out. And it's I've seen the videos and it looks like it's insane. So that's what has a lot of fans really happy that this track, along with obviously older tracks, historic tracks like Imola, coming back onto the calendar. At least for this year, we get to see Turkey again, which was one of the tracks that a lot of F1's fans clamored to have back on the calendar.
Yeah, in terms of its speed, it's almost like a big Austria, in that it's got a couple of turns where you slow down, and it's just I want to say balls to the wall from there.
Yeah, it's because you don't have heavy braking zones, so it's just maybe you're taking the foot off the pedal, or you have small braking zone where you're still keeping the speed in the car. So it looks like it's a fun track.
Can't wait to have this in the game so I can play it.
Well,
because I actually did good
Go
at
ahead.
Austria.
Yeah, I hope it is confirmed. It looks like a fun track.
Nobody's
to
more
race.
pissed off about this year and the different tracks than Codemasters. Lastly for us is the Perez blue flag penalty thing. And when I was watching it, I said, "There's no way this is this is warranted," because he, where was he gonna turn off? In Sector 3 in Spain is very tight, and then Lewis Hamilton was ahead by at the time 13 seconds. So what was he? Was it really that bad of a thing? But he got his penalty. He responded to it, kind of saying what I was thinking, in that he ignored apparently 12 blue flags, I think.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you
and you get you do get a little blue light on the screen and
on your steering wheel too.
On your steering wheel
I don't
too.
know.
So it seems like if it's like 1 or 2, all right, but it's 12 of them. And I think he on his radio he said, "Guys, you should have told me," meaning that his team should have told them. But you kind of got to know what the hell's going on at the same time. So if you ignore it 12 times,
I mean,
sounds legit
for
to me.
Here's my continued problem with the FIA, the stewards, etc. Right away, they give him that penalty, right? There should be a penalty on the books for driving without your seatbelt, right? Shouldn't we have known right away, okay, this is the penalty Leclerc's going to get on the next race? We should know that right away. I feel like it's uneven. Sometimes it feels like, they just pull it out of their butt. Here, okay, I get it. blue flag penalties, whatever, 5 seconds. It didn't affect him that much, except he flipped with Stroll. It's whatever. It's his own teammate.
Position. Yeah.
You think that they're still going to come down on?
Dude, they
on
have to. That's unsafe driving.
Well, they're going to announce it on Thursday before the race.
Yeah. Well,
they should have announced it already. I mean, it
should be a grid penalty.
I think so.
Yeah, he should get a
He goes back
penalty or a fine or something.
He goes back.
You're going around a track around the track at 150 miles an hour for 2 laps.
Yeah.
Without seatbelt. That's pretty.
He goes back to these penalties that we keep saying that they take too long to announce. Like, just announce the thing. Like, make a decision. Like, come on, guys. I don't know. It's like sometimes they go nowhere, and then
it's F1.
Yeah.
F1 politics, man. But it's kind of what makes it interesting. So, do you really want it to go away?
Dude,
no, that aspect of it. I'm talking about. Come on, just announce the thing. If you're going to penalize the penalty, not just note it. Just write note it.
I don't know.
No, but that's the whole thing, that they write noted and then it takes forever to make the decision. We just want to know the decision, see what's going to happen.
I don't even think it was even noted in the race. It was said.
Nobody knew.
Exactly.
It was like nobody knew until they heard the team radio after the race.
Look,
I mean, and shortly after that, he was retired. So
to me, if it's either of the three of us, it's click it or ticket, right? So I would have to imagine he's got to get some type of ticket.
If
I get penalized and I have to pay a fine, you should too, Leclerc.
There you go.
All right, Charlie.
People, that about wraps it up for us. Before we go, I want to make sure to mention to follow us on at Jump to Start F1 on Instagram and Twitter. We are active on YouTube, Jump to Start Racing Podcast. Obviously, follow us on any podcast platform. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, TuneIn. I think there's another one. Spotify.
iHeart?
Yeah.
Well, that's important.
Aside from that, you can send us an email at jumptostartracing@gmail.com. Guys, we're active on social. Make sure to follow us. Any closing thoughts, Ruben?
Spa's going to be interesting with the Paris and Beto thing coming down. He's catching even more and more traction. I heard around there, I read that there's an formal offer for Beto, $50 million a year.
Wow.
And Paris backers are blocking it.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
To be continued.
Yep.
I want to see if Racing Point can actually, now that they're understanding their car better, to see if they can actually sneak onto the podium. Let's see.
They're gone. They have to. It's a matter of time.
Especially in Spa, a power track. But we will talk about the race preview and the news in an episode next week. Gentlemen, I'll catch you later.
Peace.
Yeah.